I love platformers. I've loved them ever since first playing video games, and Banjo-Kazooie is one of my favorites. After Microsoft bought Rare, it seemed like we'd never get another true sequel to Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie, until the original creators of that game came together to create a spiritual successor called Yooka-Laylee. It's incredibly similar from the gameplay to the dialogue, and I've been looking forward to trying it out ever since it was first announced. And now that it's out, I can honestly say, well, we still don't have that spiritual successor, but they tried. This game is the biggest mixed bag I have ever played. It's absolutely baffling. One moment I'm having a blast and reliving my childhood. The next I'm screaming at the game for being broken or just downright unfun. Where do I even start? Well, the story is simple, so let's start there. The evil capital B is in his lair working on an evil scheme to steal all of the world's books in an attempt to grant his production company a monopoly on the market. He also wants to snag a powerful magical book. This book belongs to Laylee, who is out sunbathing with her pal Yuka when B's book magnet sucks the book away. As it's flying through the air, some of the book's pages manage to escape and are hidden inside Capital B's factory. Wanting the book back in case it's worth some money, Yuka and Laylee set off on an adventure to retrieve all of the book's pages, defeat Capital B, and get Laylee's book back. The characters are all charming and fun, just like a Saturday morning cartoon. Yuka and Laylee are basically just Banjo and Kazooie with new skins, but Capital B, his cronies, and the rest of the main cast all do a serviceable job of being cute and fun. It's not deep, but it works. There are a lot of puns, light jabbing at each other's features, and silly moments. A couple of times I even laughed out loud from the absurd humor. But usually it's just some kid-friendly entertainment to fill in the gaps between gameplay. Although considering that each world is contained in a book called a tome, it's a shame that none of the worlds have a central story type of mission to fit the storybook theme. Still, the idea is really creative, reminiscent of jumping into paintings in Super Mario 64. It's nothing mind-blowing, but if I had a kid, I wouldn't mind watching a Yooka-Laylee TV show with them. Visually, the game is okay. It's running on the Unity engine, so there isn't a lot going on behind the scenes, but it does function. The lighting effects are good, the textures work well, and the character designs are mostly unique and varied. Plus, the old Rare trope of putting giant googly eyes on everything is still fun, going to the point of the eyes themselves being an enemy capable of bringing whatever they're on top of to life. The environments are well designed, and each have a unique aesthetic with cool themes such as tribal, ice, spooky swamp, casino, and space. The animations are fluid as well, being very bouncy and fun to really emulate the feeling of playing through a cartoon. Still, there are some gripes. The loading screens, while not notably long or short, have this janky movement that makes it look like the game is crashing. The energy bar is the same, with a really jerky motion. And of course, there are graphical bugs. So many bugs. Mostly just things like floating in the air over a platform or infinitely falling instead of standing on something, but it's really prevalent and irritating. The music, however, is incredible. Grant Kirkhope, Steve Burke, and David Wise together on one soundtrack is a dream team made in heaven. Everything manages to suit the environment being played in, the tone being portrayed, the cartoony feeling of the game, and the classic sound of N64 platformers, all while being completely new and fresh. You even get the modified versions when transformed or underwater. I really can't sing its praises enough. After this review, there's supposed to be an update with a fully orchestral version of the soundtrack, but given that I have to rate this game as is, I'd still say it's the best soundtrack of the year so far. Of course, with the good comes the meh. This next point is really up to personal opinion, but the voices. Playtonic decided to give each character grunts and sound bites for voices instead of full voice acting, just like in the older games. The thing is, the older games did this because the N64 cartridges didn't have a ton of memory, with this method being a compromise to save on the space audio files would take up. Nowadays, it can be annoying to some people. For the most part, I didn't mind it, and even enjoyed it with characters such as Kardos and Shovel Knight, but I can see why people would be irritated. I really wish there had been an option for full voice acting, or at the very least, an option to turn off the grunts. The overall goal of the game is to collect all of the pages, living pages that escaped from Laylee's book. You do this by completing various challenges throughout each of the 5 worlds. There could be a race, helping out a character in need, or just finding them scattered throughout the world. However, each world has pages for collecting 200 feathers scattered around, 5 ghosts with unique requirements for collection, a boss fight, a kart riding minigame, and 2 from playing retro arcade games. There's also Trouser the Snake, who will offer new moves in exchange for collective feathers. These are usually cool and make traversal much more fun. Now here's why the game is a big mixed bag. The missions are all over the place in terms of quality. Collecting hidden objects, solving simple puzzles, beating a boss, and other simple challenges are usually really fun. But the kart riding games, the retro games, and the physics-based games are usually atrocious. There are a few reasons for this. The first are, of course, the controls. They're easily the worst part of the game. Some moves work well, others don't. For example, grappling to things with your tongue works well from the ground, but using it in the air results in a failed grab. The Kardos games could be fun, but despite the 2D feel, the hit detection is horrible and the shots fire into a 3D space, resulting in a lot of misses. Plus, things come into frame way too late to react to them. The biggest control issue I had, however, was turning. Whether it be in the air, on the ground, underwater, or anything else, turning in this game just sucks. They focus so much on making the game animate well that they forgot in a platformer when I want to change directions, the characters should immediately be going in the opposite direction, not pulling a wide U-turn to circle back. This is easily the biggest issue with the game and drags it down from a great game to a mediocre one. Then you have the camera, and it's pretty bad. Like, it's worse than any camera I've used since the early 2000s. It gets stuck on walls, bounces around, doesn't give players complete control, and often makes the game more difficult than it needs to be. The energy bar is also an annoyance. It only comes into play like once every 10 or 20 missions, and the rest of the time it just hinders your ability to navigate the world quickly. Lastly, the worlds are too damn big. They each only have a few more things to do than the worlds of Banjo-Kazooie, but are easily 3 to 4 times the size. It's completely unnecessary and makes everything more confusing to navigate and take forever to get to. This is partially due to the fact that each world has an expansion to it unlocked with extra pages. If I had to guess, this is because it's more cost effective to expand a world with the same assets instead of creating new ones for a new world. But the end result is a world that's way too big and confusing. Everyone seems to complain about the hub world for its size and confusion, and while I do wish passages between worlds had signs to show where they lead, I was way more lost trying to find my way around the levels themselves. Yooka-Laylee is an average game. There are a lot of high points, but the low points are so crucial to the game that it would be inexcusable for me to look past them. It's both a great throwback, proving that 3D collectathons can work in today's gaming scene, and a big disappointment, being nowhere near as good as the older games. Which is why my final score for Yooka-Laylee on the PS4 is a 6.5 out of 10. I really hope they get a sequel to fix up the blatant mistakes present here, but if not, I'm still hopeful that A Hat in Time and Mario Odyssey can breathe new life into the 3D platforming scene. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed this review, and if you did, be sure to like and subscribe to see more Mighty reviews, dissections, and other great gaming content. And as always, have a mighty nifty day today.